So for me, the fight is not against my brethren or my sisterin amongst the street. My fight is against the mentality of trying to get them to understand that this slave masochistic bullshit just cannot continue to go on, because the next thing that's going to happen this summer, there's going to be a whole lot of Jeff Fords. There's going to be a whole lot of Fred Hamptons. There's going to be a whole lot of Brother Shabazz and Brother Martins that's going to go into this mass incarceration system or dead because they don't have any subjects.
Chicago, Chicago, that toddling town, Chicago, Chicago, I'll show you around.
The corner with our magic, our music, our politics. Fires raised as tribal dances and war cries broke out on different corners. Power to the people.
And just say Shot City. If you don't know by now, I'm talking about Shot Town. And just say Shot City, Shot City.
Ujjayi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Sunnyside podcast. My name is Giziribtah. I'm one of your hosts along with Nehez, Meniooh. We are delighted to have you with us today. We have a very important guest with us, Dr. Ameena Matthews. We are very honored that she has joined us. For those of you who do not know, she is just a really mover and shaker in the Chicagoland community. Not only is she a mother, a wife, she's a political activist. She advocates for young women, young girls in the sex industry, trying to advocate for the sex trafficking of young people. She also runs a prison release program that helps those who have been incarcerated be able to be reintroduced back into society. We were introduced by another gentleman who introduced us to the documentary that you were featured on called The Interrupters. And this show or documentary was really highlighting how people can assist in reforming gang violence and getting ahead of the troubles that are brewing. And so in this documentary, Dr. Ameena was one of the instrumental forces in helping to calm down and put some order back into the lives and the hearts of our young people. And she really captivated our attention because our goal at Sunnyside is really to help people also see like the sunny side of life, because we know in Chicago and really nationwide, worldwide, we have a problem of destructive and self-destructive lifestyles, behaviors, all the things that are really just introduced to people from an early age, and then they perpetuate that through destructive and bad behavior. But yet we do have platforms, we have activists, we have communities, and we have programs to help people see that there is a different way. And we want to give those opportunities to our listening audience to see that we are networking and working together to bring some of the solutions that we see in our communities. So we want to have Miss Ameena give some introduction to herself and what she's doing and how it's been instrumental in her life and what she's really doing in this current
Welcome,
time.
welcome, sis.
Welcome.
It's a pleasure having you. For those who don't already know Ameena or haven't seen Ameena's face, I don't know how. If you're in Chicago, I'm not from Chicago, but Chicago is, you are definitely a big piece of Chicago and that fight to kind of remove obscurity that's happening at the street level of Chicago. So it's a pleasure to have you on. You about to get flattered and flowers on
and
on
not
here,
just that, but we have been trying to get this interview for what, months?
But she's a mover and shaker, so she's moving.
She's moving and she's doing so much for the community. And not only that, she still finds the time to have community gardens and spend time with her children, being a mother, a granddaughter, all the things that is just so admirable to see that what you're doing in the community, you're still making the time to ground yourself and be there for your family.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. And to those that have not been in this space that we're actually sitting in, it is just amazing. If you're ever in the Chicagoland area, please, if there's any comments to this podcast, ask where this location. It's just a beautiful hidden gem that we need in times like this in our community. As Dr. Ameena Matthews, born and raised in the city of Chicago, mother.
That's important. You got to start with that one. That's an important one. People want to gloss over the mother, but
I'm just so grateful. I did not ever think that, when people would say to me, do you want to have any kids? I was, no. I'm never having any kids, and kind of thought that I, couldn't and wouldn't. And then I was chosen, I was chosen, and Aziz chose me, and it just softened and, opened my heart up to not more, but, options of if it just would happen that, I'm just so honored to be someone's mother, just real quick, I'll talk about just me and what probably, I can't honestly say what, led me into peace building. I just know that my mom was 15, 16 having me. My dad was, 16, 17 having me. And I was raised by Meniooh, and Meniooh had 2 jobs, and plus she had a lingerie store named after me. And I seen her stress herself out throughout the community. I was born and raised from the southeast side of the city, 79th, in between Bennett to Rainbow. Now it's Rainbow Park, but Rainbow Beach. So coming up, having a grandmother that having a young daughter that had a child, and still my grandmother had another daughter that was 11 years older than me, so I had to be babysat by my aunt that was like, I'm going to high school and I'm going to South Shore, and I don't need you to follow me and stop my groove while we're stopping on the stairs of South Shore to, smoke a little something or whatever. So come on, girl, so I was that young girl. And but what I can say is that my aunt, which people thought that was my sister, never ever mistreated me or allow anyone to mistreat me. She is really the one that taught me to fight, taught me to stand up for myself. And, having a mother that's young and maternal instincts was not there, and she didn't have a clue. And I know a lot of people that's on this podcast is really realizing, probably at the age of 40, like me at the age of 20, saying she really doesn't have a clue. Meniooh really didn't have, they made it do what it do. So through my mom's inability and heartbreak of mine, I had to really suck it up. I had to really learn how to unpack me, and keep it moving. So just realizing, and this is something that I'm going to talk about that I had never spoke about before, but my mother was not able to protect me from one of her randoms, right? One of her randoms relationships, and the reason why she didn't want to protect me is because she wanted the relationship with this random. And I had to, you know, like kind of suck that up a little bit. You know, I had to really figure out, without causing harm to myself, what can I do to get away from her? You know, I love her, but I don't like her. She's doing the best that she can. I'm trying to figure this out, you know, instead of, you know, attacking her. And so I ran away, you know, after
How old were you?
I was when I finally told what was going on with the randoms, but in particularly this one, I was 8. No, I was not. I was about 11 with him. And when I finally told, I was going into like at that time, 6th grade was going into middle school. So I was going into 6th grade. And my dear from here, taking care of us down south, because my mom had to leave Chicago because of her dealings of relationships that she didn't take care of, or whatever relationships that she was dealing with people in the city of Chicago. Had made it unsafe for her, so she wanted me to, and that was at 9. That's when I was introduced to my mom, at 9. Okay. So when I did tell, you know, my mother told Medea, which is her mom, and I truly do believe that Medea knew her, and she knows her daughter. So when I told, and my mother told her mother that I was, at that time, 9 years old, the first one, at the 9 years old, I'm jealous of her, and that, you know, so my grandmother was kind of torn. So she left me. And then it was more randoms, and I flipped out. I flipped out in school. I went to a boarding school called Immaculate Conception. Medea paid for the tuition. She stroked herself out damn near to make sure that I had the best, even though she knew where I was at and what was going on with me. She knew, you know, but back then, coming from, you know, being kidnapped into a foreign land and coming over here and still enslaved, and there was some things going on, you know, that that caused my family to say, look, we're not going to talk about that. That didn't happen. Don't say it again. We're not going to mention it. Suck it up. Or send away. So my mom put me in an institution, a mental institution, and she had 100% insurance. And you know how long I was there. I was 14 then. So after the insurance expired, but one thing that I can say is, you know, man, and talking about this is the first time that I'm really actually talking about this. I appreciate the spirit moving. I was introduced to a psychiatrist, and his name is Dr. Lee, and out of Millington, Tennessee. That really, he believed me.
And where was that? That wasn't in Chicago.
That was in Millington, Tennessee.
Okay.
He believed me. So he wanted to have a conversation with the random. And in order to have that conversation, you had to have that conversation with my mom that this is what we're going to do. So from that interaction, I was carried out by 3 men that they weighed about maybe 250 each, 300 pounds, thrown in a room, because I was just so at rage of why and how, as scared as I, you know. So finally the random came, and to just watch that doctor, he's a European, to watch him, very unassuming, you know, you would think that you would think that he was you would think that he was someone that I definitely didn't know that this guy had this in him. So he confronted the random. He confronted the random, and he allowed me to confront the random. And it gave me a voice, you know, even though my mom still didn't get me out of there until the insurance ran out. He put me in a boarding school. At 16, I was able to graduate. But I ran away from the boarding school because I did not want to go back. You know, she still was with the random. I ran away, hitchhiked from Millington, Tennessee. Some of that I don't even know what's going on. So that's why I understand what's going on with our young girls. With you know, and I wasn't getting high, I wasn't drunk, I wasn't with a crew. I was just in here and broke up right here. And so finally got back to Memphis, and I stayed with a couple of my cousins, and that was being raised by their aunt because their mom had passed away, and they kept me in their bedroom, and I would be quiet, and when she would go, she used to do hair, and
they didn't know you were there.
She didn't. My cousins did, but the aunt didn't. Well, let me say this: Aunt Lucille made, you know, Allah bless her soul for just making sure that I was safe. I believe she knew that I was there. I believe, you know, because she knew that both of her nieces was gone to school, and then you hear Lil walking around. Maybe about the 5th day, she was like, "Hey, come on out from back there. I know you back there." So then she called Meniooh and told Meniooh. Well, she called my grandmother's mom, and then they called Chicago, and she said for me to come back here. And when I got back here, it was, you know, the same mentality from the men that was, I don't understand, you know. And this is when I really, really realized that I didn't want to have a daughter. And I said, Ameena, you're going to have to fight. My aunt had this guy that had just came home from the penitentiary. She liked him. He was buff and swollen, you know. I was maybe about 17, and my aunt was at work, and he was staying with us, Meniooh and I, and he would look at me really, 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 really like, just like dark, triggered me. Seen this before. But what was so profound about that interaction with him was that my head said, don't tell your auntie, do not tell Shrek, don't you tell her. Because it's going to be just like, you know, that's her sister. So, you know, they're like, don't tell her. My heart said, you better tell her. You know, my head kept saying, oh, she doesn't want you around because, you know, you took her high school years or what. That's my head. My heart said, you better tell her. When she got home from work, I said, Auntie, I need to talk to you about something. And she said, well, what happened? I said, this dude is looking at me real funny, and every time I walk by, he tries to get me close to him. And she said, don't worry about it. No. When I say let's go, let's go. So now I'm in my grandmother's bedroom. My aunt had her bedroom. She comes out the bathroom at my grandmother's bedroom is right there. She called his name. They were getting ready to go. She called me, she said, let's go. So as he was coming toward the stairs, he got to maybe the third to the top. She kicked him down the stairs. She said, let's go again. Went down those stairs. She gave him a couple of She said, and you too? Man, I went and got a vase. We drug him out halfway out the door. My grandmother stayed across the street from the police station and called the police. From that point, that was my mom. You know what I'm saying? That is nothing to this very day right now that I wouldn't do for sure. Nothing as crazy as that
Scene.
Cancer is. You know what I'm saying? She said, you know, but she's intense, and she taught me how to take care of. From that point, I was like all in. Show me how to take care of my bills, how to take care of me, how to take care of a family. She showed that. Now, what we did, we may have argued or whatever, but when it came down to us, it was a united front. And if we had to fight, which she did several times coming home from South Shore High School, I jumped right in the middle, on top of shoulders, you know. So my fight, my auntie, man, she's this big. We can call her. She don't like it now, but I hope she doesn't see this podcast. They used to call her Beanie, and she's still Beanie. She is. She's. I tell her all the time. I text her and let her know she is the reason. I do believe she is the reason why I am so unapologetically against BS. You know, I just, when I feel that the energy of Shaitan, Satan, is in the room, I'm a fighter. You know, and if I have to fight my ego and me, I'm gonna fight you about that. About my daughter, about your daughter, about the. I can't understand what is the conflict between, you know, doing the right thing. So after that, I had my babies, and a lot of things happened within my life. I was on my own at 16, you know, 19, having another apartment, and, you know, just living the life of Chicago, you know, at that time. So at that time, it was the Players and the Pimps and the Steppers, and, you know, house music was going on, and I used to hang out at the Hummingbird Hideout.
Well, okay, wait. Because I don't want to jump over that, because I really appreciate you bringing it back to that. Because having you on, you know, your father is the one that's well known. And your father, which I was going to try to bring it around to, has an authority. You see authority on him. He, you know, is known all over Chicago, and he passed you that authority. But we didn't know what you got from your mom. And coming from a perspective of indigenous Africa, the mom is not just, first of all, that's why I said that at the beginning, like, don't jump over that you're a mom, because the mom is supreme. The mom is every child's first divinity. The mom is the one. Now you're telling us that fight against obscurity, that fight for against what's wrong, came from your mom's side. But in indigenous Africa, it's not just your mom that's your mom. Every one of your mom's sisters is also your mom. And so really hearing that is really your mom's younger sister, your other mom, that really put that in you and was really kind of building that in you.
You got to fight.
As you raise.
You have to fight. And then to find out after, you know, years later, I want to say decades later, she was, you know, abused. And it was something that she never spoke about. She didn't want to be around this family member, and she was very adamant. And it was not like, oh, time has passed and it's okay, you should be all right with it, girl, it's all right. She was very adamant that if I do go, I know that I'm going to prison. It's no making amends for that. You know, if that's what they want to do, they can make an amends with their own self, between them and their Lord. I'm not with that. And for me, that has helped me understand that, you know what, it's okay to have a good heart. It's okay to love unconditionally. What's not okay is to take care of you first and make sure that you take care of someone else first. But you have to take care. I have to take care of me. I can't take care of you if I can't take care of me. And that's what she taught me, you know. That's what she taught me with every area of my life. You know, so yeah, my dad's you know, that dude is so cool. He really is. Alhamdulillah. You know, I pray that Allah blesses him, you know, just for the intentions of him taking back the original religion of who and whose we are, and infused it some way or how into me.
And how did that happen? Because we see,
I'm still trying to figure out.
We see in the Black community in particular how Islam has really helped reform a lot of people who have challenges in their life in ways that other groups, organizations have not been able to penetrate. So we're trying to figure out what is that.
What makes it so effective? Well,
It makes sense. I'll talk about me. I'll definitely talk about for me. But because someone, as I was growing up and doing my thing and in and out of Eastern Orion and the fantasy, and you don't know nothing about that. And it was brothers that was saying, that had great admiration and respect for my dad, that you're gonna be Muslim one day. I was working at this clinic called Dr. Wu's. It's on 75th Street. She's still there too. And my dad had a mosque right next to it, so the brothers would always say, you're going to be the one that accepts Islam. I'm not going to be bumping my head on the floor 5 times a day. If I'm hungry, I'm going to eat. This was the little woman at the time saying, you are not going to break my rest, telling me it's Fajr time. I was like, no, that's for you all. That's not for me. I'm cool where I'm at.
So how did you...
I don't know.
Still trying to figure it out. But do you know?
I knew I had to do something. I knew that my behind was on fire. So I know if my behind was on fire, Ameena, your soul's kind of gonna follow. So you're gonna have to do something. My oldest was maybe about 12, 13 years old, and I wanted him to understand who he is. And at that time, it wasn't a lot of brothers out speaking about our heritage and our native land. They may have come from their visiting with the artifacts that they would probably keep to themselves, or just those that they share with. They would come with the gall, and but it just wasn't with understanding. I needed to make sense. And oh my gosh. So what happened was I met my husband. Already in tune and understanding of Islam, and trying to find the balance for me and understand what the balance is for Ameena, and when I met him, and he used to, help my father's mosque out a lot when they wasn't able to make rent and different things like that, and just to see the simplicity in Islam through Sufism, but the power to call things to be as it is. I was like, I don't have to pick up the phone. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to call what? You mean to say I can really, for real, connect to Ameena and bring forth what and why the sperm hit the egg between Jeff and Carol? So it made sense to me. It wasn't beating me down with a spiritual principle stick. It was easy for me. It was easy for me to understand the sacrifice that must be put in for self in order for rewarding of communities, just like gardening. When you plant that seed, the sacrifice, you just have to wait until it just starts. You have to still water it. You still have to, nurture it and make sure that it's still there. You got to kind of pull it and see if it's there, And that's how I felt when you know, when I took my Shahada. You know, I took my Shahada before I met my husband, but I re-engaged into my Shahada Kalima because I knew for real, this was something that I mean, and I am going to stick with it, and I am going to teach with it. I'm going to teach first in my household and be an example. And man, I was very surprised after I married my husband. My dad was in Miriam. They turned that penitentiary to a max when he went in, and then when he left to go to Florence, they put it back to a soup. So when I went to go visit him, you know, sometimes relationships, you know, we have little tips and taps, and so I rode down from here to Carbondale to see Dad. He was in Miriam, and it was an impromptu visit. So he came to the window. You know, they had him all glassed up. So he came to the window, and he said, "Assalamu alaikum, Ameena." Does your husband know you're here? No, I come to talk about him. I didn't say that, but that's what I wanted to say. You know, oh, you on his side. No, I had to stop. It just. I said, no, he doesn't. But I need to see you. He said, you need to let the sheikh know, and then you can come back and see me. Wait a minute, man, Chief, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? This is in my mind. Of course, I do talk to him like that, but it was like, you know what, Ameena? Boom, this is it. Yeah. You know, the respect that you need to give is what you're getting, and you know, respect that. This is not that circumstance and situation. This is not, you know, a triggering moment in the relationship. You just teeth and tongue fall out of his mouth. Your husband didn't do anything wrong, but you know.
Relationships are relationships.
And my dad wasn't playing it.
And he threw you that curveball. It was like there's principles involved. You gotta stick to those principles.
I was like, I thought that was your favorite.
That's a good dad.
And he took care of the situation with the random in Chicago, in Memphis. He did. Yeah. He had a conversation.
Now, for those who don't know, because we haven't said the name outright yet, but now you're hearing he's an enforcer. He's about business. He's serious. Her father is Jeff Fort, who was one of the, you could put it best. Who is Jeff Fort, for those who don't know? For those who call themselves
in the city,
who call themselves Chicagolanders and don't know who you are and don't know who Jeff Fort is, can you help them out? To you and to the city.
Yes. So Mr. Ford is my father. I'm so honored to have had him as a father. Growing up, being born and raised in Aberdeen, Mississippi, coming from the Great Migration, my grandmother and my grandfather and his 10 siblings settled here, coming through Aberdeen, Mississippi, and over in Woodlawn. And my dad, very charismatic, then and still. My grandmother was the mover and shaker, you know, all of the faith-based leaders and the political drama of Chicago. She sat at the table with them, you know, and so my dad loved his mom. So if she was going to church, he was going to support her. If she was doing a bake sale, he was going to support her. And so at a young age, he had friends, you know, and living on the south side of Chicago, it was 20 by 20 that we were only able to move around in. And if we moved outside of that, it was, you know, repercussions, as it was said, that, you know, that it would be a fight, you know. It was just little boys fighting, and the loser has to walk the winners home, even if it's on the west side. So at 14, 15, my dad started moving around with the faith-based leaders, Bishop Brazier and Leon Finney and Jesse Jackson and Louis Farrakhan and Reverend Sampson, and some very honorable, honorable, and some just was getting money from the government, and say that they're putting Opportunity Please Knock or TWO or Opportunity Breadbasket, that they're putting it in the money that the government and state is giving. We're giving it to these young guys, and this is at that time it wasn't a title for the program manager, and that was Dad. So as community was building, far as with the faith-based leader, African American faith-based leaders, he had a lot of more titles and duties to make sure that he can put guys to work, teach sisters the librarian skills and secretarial skills, and and some that may want to have janitorial skills, and teach the brothers how to work with streets and sand and different things like that. My dad, mischief, back and forth, St. Charles boys, because now he's one of the young leaders in the community, and other young leaders that are outside of the community is trying to figure out where is this money coming from and how is this power coming. And so that's how, let me move back just a little bit. When what happened was, there was the Irish mob, there was the Italian mob, the Spanish mob, and they were in the city with liquor and gambling, and when I say gambling, I mean like literally with a pad and piece of paper on booking numbers. And so that's, my dad was helping and trying to build the community. This is what my family is engaged in. So now, as he started getting older and a little more mature, and now the faith-based leaders, now they have to account for this money, and my dad's testimony would be key for where's the money. So my father, the way that he is that he, you got to do your own homework. What are you asking me for? So he went to court several times, responded the same way, but the last time they asked him how much, and he walked out. He just said his name, first and last name, and he walked out. And he spent 5 years in the federal penitentiary for contempt.
At what age was he at that time?
At that time, my dad was like 18, 19 years old, right? For contempt. 5 years.
Wow.
As he was being processed out of the penitentiary, he got a card from Nixon inviting him to the inauguration.
But wait now. Because he had already, because what generally people know about Jeff Ford is he was one of the founders of Blackstone
That's
Rangers, right?
Moving.
This happens
after
that.
After this.
So how was this? He's that that's what I mean by authority. It was in, because he's that charismatic to now these faith leaders are all getting behind this 16-year-old boy, and then even putting the rap on the 16-year-old boy for where the money went.
Young kid, you want to Google it?
No, I believe you. I'm making sure to make a point for our listeners, because
that's what they did. No, and then so I'm starting the campaign, and we'll talk about that. So after the 5 years, and Dad didn't go to the inauguration, he sent the young brother with him that was the co-founder of the Peace Stones. He sent him. So after that, Nixon and his dude, Edgar Hoover, he put Edgar Hoover in play to do exactly what he did. So now after Dad came back, he didn't go to the inauguration. My dad and my brother Fred Hampton was very close. My dad loved and love him still. Edgar Hoover came into Chicago and lit a forest fire. And they were so bold and blazing as far as the FBI that they would come up on top of this rooftop knowing that this area may be the GDs, right? And they will put on another color sun and they'll shoot us walking down the street. So my dad had to really like intervene because now they're over in Woodline. They would go over to Woodline and put on a black sun and they'll shoot. Then they'll go over to West Side and then they'll do the same thing with a red sun. So my dad had this press conference, and this was the moment that I knew that they're going to take my dad away from me. That's what's going to happen
with that press conference.
So now my dad has a conversation with Mr. Hampton, Brother Hampton, and the chairman. They went into a undisclosed location, and they spent off, and my dad was, when I asked him about that interaction, and the chairman, as my dad explained their relationship, he's gonna do what he want to do, need to do, how to do it, and it'll get done. So when he asked him, you good, you need me, what is it that, he said he was good. And that night, that's when the federal agents came in and assassinated Mr. Hampton. And after that, the city just went ballistic, berserk. And in that time, they still knew that Dad had political energy in this city, right? So his own brothers, his own family of faith base, planned the trip. My dad was locked up, took some guys over to Saudi Arabia to see Gaddafi.
Okay.
For whatever reason, I don't know. But my dad was locked up.
And
he was locked up. And what came out of that meeting with Gaddafi and Louis Farrakhan taking the brothers over there for whatever the agreement or whatever was, the outcome was a launcher.
What we hear about.
And the guys that went over ended up working for the feds. This is public information, that the feds was paying him. And he deciphered Swahili on a federal case. And the feds did not get an interpreter, professional interpreter, to see if that's what he's really actually saying. So after all of that shenanigans is still going on. My dad is locked up.
Still there.
They're out. The guys that lied on him for whatever reason, we don't know. I don't know what happened over in Saudi. They know, and they have to get right with their Lord and with that. But my dad got 185 years for conspiracy
for being in prison
and conspiring against the United States.
Not even being at the meeting.
But this is what really blows my mind with this. I know that Allah is God, and I know that the message that I bring is for the betterment of our community. So Muammar Gaddafi got out of prison, Remember, he got a conspiring case too, right? He got out. Louis Farrakhan invited him over. Had him at the Nation of Islam.
Right.
They went to the United Nations in New York. He came back here and sashayed him around. When Gaddafi got home and got off of his plane and got into the Hummer or whatever, Gaddafi got shot in the head on CNN. Bush paid his people to assassinate him on CNN. My thing is this: if Gaddafi was my dad's rappy and he got out and got the same amount of time, why is he still? Why is my dad still locked up? So after all of that shenanigans is still going on, my dad is locked up.
Still there.
They're out. You know, the guys that lied on him for whatever reason, we don't know. I don't know what happened over in Saudi. They know, and they have to get right with their Lord and with that. But my dad got 185 years for conspiracy
For being in prison.
and conspiring against the United States.
Not even
Right.
being at the meeting.
But this is what really blows my mind with this. I know that Allah is God, and I know that the message that I bring is for the betterment of our community. So Muammar Gaddafi got out of prison. Remember, he got a conspiring case too, right? He got out. Louis Farrakhan invited him over. Had him at the Nation of Islam.
Right.
They went to the United Nations in New York. He came back here and sashayed him around. When Gaddafi got home and got off of his plane and got into the Hummer or whatever, Gaddafi got shot in the head on CNN. Bush paid his people to assassinate him on CNN. My thing is this: if Gaddafi was my dad's rappy and he got out and got the same amount of time, why is he still? Why is my dad still locked up? And we're putting out petitions. My dad should be home. Legally, he should be home, but because of a demonic system that we have, he's not. And even if it was a smooth sail of his incarceration, which it never would be for any of our loved ones, he should at least be 100 miles within his loved ones. He's all the way in Florence, Colorado, in a mountain, shackled, coming to the visitation room that we're behind glass and cement. So
And still in solitary confinement.
Still. So, and I just got a text from one of the attorneys saying that, hey, look, it's been 2 weeks since Dr. Matthews put her visitation form in again. What's going on? So now I'm going to have to send that message to my friends so they can start emailing this counselor. I need to see my dad. The last time that I really saw him was after my transplant. I was diagnosed with leukemia. They gave me 30 days to live, and I wanted to see him after I transplanted, and they denied.
So let's for a moment, let's be clear with our listeners and make sure that they're following everything, because what I hear is Jeff Fort, and I didn't want to spend too much time on your father because you have a lot to talk about in your own right with your own work, but like I said at the beginning, that authority is coming from Jeff Fort. And for those who don't understand it, now you can see Jeff Fort and Chairman Fred Hampton were two huge spirits that came with a very bright star, very bright destiny, very big spirit, to where they shook fear into the establishment, and the FBI and J. Edgar Hoover went after them with everything that he could, and assassinated Fred Hampton. And that's all public records. They did that, and then
out. It was a lawsuit. They got the money, it was a couple of millions.
And then went after Jeff Fort, because those two were working together, and the FBI and the system had a big fear of any possibility of a rise of a black messiah in Black America, who could lead the masses of black people that they were afraid, wanted to seek some kind of revenge on America. So that, hopefully our listeners can follow that. And if you don't know about Jeff Ford, if you don't know about his history in Chicago, go and look it up, but understand that he's another person that was in the crosshairs of J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI, and trying to make sure that no black movement could happen where you are galvanizing the energy of the masses of black people around America. And Jeff Fort, with that authority and that charisma that he had, even at 16, to have these faith leaders get behind a 16-year-old and then say, hey, do everything for us. Hey, can you just do everything for us and be the project manager and do everything? Like, what kind of 16-year-old was that? So that's who we're talking about when we're talking about the father of Ameena, and what he was doing, organizing people, organizing youth in Black Chicago. What Fred Hampton was doing, she came up in that. And then she came up, in the communities that then became Islamic. And I did want to hear about how he became Islamic, but I don't want to, like I said, I don't really want to spend too much more time on him, because now what you've now even kind of made that into, you yourself as his daughter, that's really what I'm more interested to hear. But I didn't want to cut you off.
Yeah, because I was interested in this whole movement that he was trying to instill. From my understanding, he was putting together programs to educate young people, to help them get job skills, to help bring solutions to the problems we have in our communities. And as Nehez is saying, like, how in the world did all these people stand behind this young person, young child, basically, but they all put their energies in these programs? How did he basically take the fall for that situation?
That dude, my Abu, is really like, he's an angel. He's an angel. Is just watching, coming up and just watching, and after the chairman got assassinated, and after my dad had taken away from our family, I started really looking at, and at that time John Burgess was on fire in the city of Chicago, and his disciples, and then I started really looking into our black leaders nationally. What they did to the chairman is the same thing what they did to Malcolm. Yeah, I'd be pleased with him.
Another one in the crosshairs.
And what they did to Martin, they did it to Brother Shabazz, Brother Malik, my father, Mr. Hampton. So for me, the fight is not against my brethren or my sisterin amongst the street. My fight is against the mentality of trying to get them to understand that this slave mastercistic bullshit just cannot continue to go on, because the next thing that's going to happen this summer, there's going to be a whole lot of Jeff Fords. There's going to be a whole lot of Fred Hamptons. There's going to be a whole lot of Brother Shabazzes and Brother Martins that's going to go into this mass incarceration system, or dead, because they don't have any subjects.
It's like the human brain cannot invent. We only copy what we see. And so with these young people, they have this talent, they have this charisma, they have this spirit about them to be leaders, to be movers and shakers, to be making things happen. And so they have that capacity, but if it's misguided or misdirected, it can go in any direction that it particularly goes. However, if we are to harness that energy, if we are to redirect that energy and help to change the mindset, the hearts of our people to something that is productive, something that is going to really serve our communities, we have to be the ones to do that. Yes. Like, we can't be depending on or thinking that the government or the system is going to be our saviors. And we think that even these faith-based leaders, I hate to say so,
not our friends. They're not our friends. I'm just saying, especially those that leave our communities dry and they're not giving anything to our youths and our elders. It's just all about the government money
and the youth. So then they're just going to copy what they see. The slave masters system is what they are going to emulate. So they are becoming very powerful and dominant in that arena, in that field, because they want a piece of the pie. Right. They want their own cake. They want their own stand. They want to control their own neighborhoods and the like, but they're demonized for doing the same thing that the whole system is founded upon. Right. So that's the problem that we have. And surely it's easy to make these the victims and the criminals and the demons of society, because it's easy to make them the fall guy. But in reality, the whole system is built this way.
And that's why it brings divisiveness between you and I, because the person behind you that is getting the money is telling you, look, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to promise you everything that you ever wanted. Coming to say the same thing to me. And then the end result is that they're putting their puppets to cause just fitna between you and I, the division between you and I, that we leave our post and leave the bag too. You know what I'm saying? But leave a whole bunch of trauma in our community because they're not leaving the bag. They're leaving a bag of weapons of mass destruction right on the tracks.
Go pick
right
it
on
up.
the tracks. And calling and saying, go get it. So that's the system that I've been fighting all my life, and it's not fair. It's not. To me, I ask, how much is enough for you? You know what I'm saying?
It's never enough. When we're talking about evil don't get enough. That's just a principle of evil. But I mean, it's an important point that you bring up, because even I was thinking, for those who know the legacy that Jeff Fort has with the media, and him being one of the founders of the Blackstone Rangers, and then hearing you say he was an angel, they would be like, well, he's a gangster. What are you talking about? But that's what people miss. Everybody in the system, under the system's politics, likes to be able to sit on their perch and judge everybody and not understand that the only reason you sit where you sit now, and maybe you don't resort to crime to feed yourself, you don't resort to so-and-so, is because the system's perpetuating that crime and murder all around the world, so you can have your spot. If you didn't have your spot of comfort on the system's back of perpetuating that on every brown neighborhood all over the world, then you may be doing much worse than you see those people doing. And when you see somebody now with some charisma who doesn't fit into a place in the system, say, hey, I got to make my own place, and I got to make a place for my people. I'm going to do it by any means necessary. However, I got to do it, because that's the only way you can get things done under a system that made sure to do that already. So it's important that the listeners understand that, and try not to, because now, the education of America is turning everybody into judges, and you have an opinion on everything instead of seeing what the reality is that people face. So now, because he has that authority, it's hard to move the conversation anywhere else but him. But I want to come back to you now, because what one aspect of the work you do that is very well known because of this documentary that you were in, The Interrupters, is you are actually a violence interrupter, and you were working with CeaseFire, and you were doing things to go out there on the streets with those people that are in that kind of zone, that world, that realm of society that they've been placed in, to where now you guys can try to get the scraps and what you can get with violence being the language. And you've been, you know, you've built a reputation for yourself in going into those unsafe zones and then trying to salvage who you can salvage out of that. And that was shown on The Interrupters. And in The Interrupters, you're the only woman doing that. Are there many other women that are involved in that?
Not into the depth that I'm willing to take it. And just in all due fairness, is not that I'm willing to. It's that, you know, I'm thrust into it, and I'm not going to go in there and say, oh, I changed my mind. Turn it around. Is that wrong dream? You know what I'm saying? Wrong building. So I just have to give it all I got.
What has to be done just has to be done.
I didn't want to do the documentary. I promise you, I really didn't. That was, I intentionally made them wait about 60 days. So Alex Koklowitz, he wrote a book, There Are No Children, with hearing hornets, right? And then Steve James, he did a whole bunch of other things, but one of the things that, you know, really stuck out with me was Hoop Dreams, right? So, you know, he's already social, you know, change and different things like that. And they came up to CeaseFire, you know, it was at one of our meetings, and, you know, they was filming, and, you know, they was trying to see what, and they would stand outside of the door but the director would say, hey, Ameena, they want to talk to you. So I would go down, if they're by one stairwell, I'll go, like I'm making a copy somewhere, and I'll go down the other stairwell, 10 flights down, and leave. And it took me some time, because I'm really very protective of my community. And you're bringing cameras in, you know, and we've been at a breaking point for a while, you know, and I wanted us to tell our own story. I didn't want anyone else. This is the way that it is right here. Are you all in? Dad, I want to go see him. Look, they want me to do this documentary. I really don't want to do it. And I'm hoping he said, well, you know what, you can do it. It's like, Ameena, then what do you think that, you know, what do you think that you were sent there for? That's not the answer that I want.
That's another curveball.
That's not the answer. So I went back and I gave them, you know, my answer that, yeah, you guys can follow me around, but, you know, because I'm already triggered, you know. My dad's homies threw him under the bus, you know, lied on him. So I wanted to make sure that I wouldn't get a conspiracy that would cause anything for him to cause back on me, right? So I wanted to make sure that, because there's a lot of things that I come across on a regular basis, that if the cameras would come in on that moment that we embark upon that situation, I would probably be charged too until further, right? So I just did what I worked, you know, and really that position with CeaseFire, I had just moved back to Chicago. I had my daughter at 16 weeks. She was very preemie. I ended up staying down. I went into labor in Macon, and I ended up, after she got out the hospital, moving further south into a little area in Florida. And then I decided to come back after she got off of oxygen. Her lungs she had heart surgery in the midst of all that. So I came back, and one of the guys that was a part of my life, you know, back in the day, was working for CeaseFire, and he got a phone call from T.O. and was talking about this little kid in Leo High School, and that he's played football, but now his mom called and said that he's loading up an AK-47 and he's on his way up to the school because Jamal is protecting his brother that has autism. The football team was bullying him. I just moved back. I literally like 2 weeks.
Right.
My boxes were still. I didn't even have a coat. It was still packed up. So what I do? Got in my van. Went and got some brothers from over there in Foster Park and had them ride with me. We found this kid. He ran, and then he called them. And I'm thinking that he's gonna be like, "What the hell you all want with me? Leave me alone. Let me live my life. You all." Why do you have Sister Ameena in the van with you? What's going on? So he said, "She just want to talk to you." About what? So I got the phone. I was like, "Hey, boy, look, dude, check this out. I want to take you to lunch. Throw that bag somewhere. Get rid of it. And meet me on 79th and Halsted." He did. I took him to Olive Garden. Never been to Olive Garden. I'm like, never been to Olive Garden. So I talked to him. I didn't talk to him about the conflict. I didn't talk to him about home. When you're in dream mode, what do you dream about? What you want to do? I really want to get out of the city of Chicago. I really want to work in, restorative justice in some form or whatever. But I'm about to catch a double murder. I said, "No, you're about to catch capital murder. You're going to, all 20 of your brothers." We're not going to talk about that right now. So once I saw him, tear up about he feeling that we're not going to talk about that. So I said, "Okay, fine. So what do you want to do? This your senior year. What's up with you?" "I want to go to a HBCU. I said, "Oh, okay. All right, cool." Dropped him off. After I was sitting in front of his house, and I called my guys down in Morehouse. I said, "Look, I got this kid. His eyes, you still can see the white part of his eyes. Has a glow on his forehead. His chin is beaming. We got to get this kid." They said, "Okay, bring him down." Got in my car 2 days later. I went to ask his mom. I said, "Look, I want to take him on a road trip with me, college tour, to see her eyes, like literally try to think about what is she gonna do without him." Her shoulders got up here, her eyes got here, and she started breaking down. I was like, "Oh God, she's about to attack me. I'm about to get it," because I know what that looks like, right? She was like, "So you're gonna come in my house and change the dynamics in my house?" I said, "No, sis, that's not what I'm trying to do. That's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is get you up off of this strip right here. You need not to be on Sangamon and 79th Street with this brother right here and your son." I said, "I tell you what, we're gonna go to the weekend. Can we take him for the weekend? And I'll bring him right back." So I let him drive through the mountains of Tennessee. I had a little Nissan Quest. Let him drive through to Tennessee. He didn't have a license. We got to Morehouse. Introduced him to the brothers. He got a little. He didn't get a brick then, but he felt it. Touched the brick. And I told him, I said, "Hey, see you later. Holla at you." Where you going, Miss Ameena? I said, "I'll be back. I got family down here. I'll be back. I'm going to make prayer." So they called me. So now I'm thinking he flipped out. My brother said, "Look, we need this kid. We just tested him. He didn't get a chance to take his ACT and none of that. So we tested him, and then we gave him a college entry test. He missed 0 on his college entry. We got to have him." That's exactly what I said. I said, "What? Are you? What did you just say?" He said, "We got to have him. We talked to the dean and the president already. He introduced him to. He said he met him for a ride."
What?
Okay, now what am I gonna do? Now I already saw his mom's eyes. This her boy. You know what I'm saying? This her man child. You taking my son from me? No, I'm not.
Because she's there dealing with his brother that's autistic, right?
Brother that's autistic. So this is what I did. We rolled back. I said, so what you want to do? It's like, my mom's not gonna buy in. She's stuck on my brother's doctors not doing what they're supposed to do, and for him not to get resources and different things like that. She's stuck on that not happening. I said, okay, don't worry about it. Go to sleep. Pulled up in front of his house. I had some brothers with me, and I told her. He showed her the test scores. But of course, she didn't know exactly what that meant. She was home health aide, and so she had. Well, what does this mean? He said, "Mom, I'm gonna get a full ride." She said, "So you leaving?" Once again, breaking out into a sweat. Start pacing back and forth. Started smoking cigarettes like that. I said, "Look." So I told you, "Mom, just go. Let me talk to her for a second." I said, "Look, let him go down there for 30 days. If he likes it." I wasn't even working for CeaseFire then. They just called me and asked me to go and check this out. Because a dude friend of mine that I said, if he likes it, we'll move you down. I ain't have a dime. Not a quarter, you know? And he liked it.
So now you're...
So we had to move him down. And we found, in the process, a network that helped her son. So that was in 2005. I have not seen Jamal. Only when he sends me stuff. He was the first youngest African American judge at Daytona Beach.
What?
He has not been back to Chicago. He retired his mom, and her son is a County of Daytona clerk. Autism or whatever they said was going on with that brother.
Wow.
He sends me pictures by him and his little crew in the beach and doing their little thing, and he hasn't been back.
One thing we wanted to touch on is the rise in crime that we see amongst young girls. This is something that is becoming like an epidemic, where our young girls are being captivated, captured, stolen to participate in all sorts of things that are just not fit for humans. And we see how you have been instrumental in advocating for these young girls, picking them up who've been thrown out of cars and just left abandoned and abused and beaten and really have no other direction. I personally, every time I talk to you and hear these accounts, my heart is broken for at least 2 days. And I said, how does she do this day in, day out, going to court, going to hospitals, caring for their parents and families and the whole nine, but hearing who you are, your family, I understand it better now. But at the same time, we see that the problem is just escalating out of control, and we want to get some perspective from you as to where we can find solution, where can we find remedy.
My anxiety in that area right there is like, my anxiety is rageful. You know, I want to put my hands on those that I didn't vote for, right? But those that are put in office for whatever reason, you know. And for me, I look at, you know, like what you were talking about, the system, the demonic system that wanted the chairman off the street, my dad off the street, Brother Shabazz off the street, Martin. The same system is plaguing, you know, one thing that system does not want is for us to be strong women, strong Black women, knowing who and whose we are, not demasculating our brothers, not to do that, but because the system is so superficial, one-sided, that the end result is that we are always the ones that have been affected by whatever else someone else's ego wants to subject into us. It is hate. You know, my great-great-grandmother was raped by the person that gave her last name. It was not her father. It was not her husband. You know, so the same mentality, because our young men, it's the same way as I see when I see the journey of our family, how we were connected. We were given a religion and a language. We had to ask someone that didn't care anything about us, were we sick, if he was sick. That same mentality, because now, since everything is so just on a punch of your fingertip, that's where they're going. That is the modern day slavery. And they're making money. And the ones that are on the top of this thing is the elected officials in those counties, the chief of police in those counties. And what I've seen is some of them are women. So for me, once again, I have to always put it in one box on what we must do. We must come together. You guys, I wouldn't care if you were in Canada. I would not care if you're in Africa. I would not care if you're over on the West Coast or wherever you are. We must stick together. We cannot flip and flop about a bag that we are never going to get. We're never going to get that 40 acres and a mule. Hey, okay, my family got a donkey. I guess we're supposed to be happy. You know what I'm saying? But the bottom line is, what we're coming up against with this election, as well as looking at our city with this DNC that's about to come through here. That is, for me, a distraction. There's going to be so many young girls moving through the underground system during that DNC, from East Coast to West Coast. That's what's going to happen. And we cannot turn a blind eye on that is acceptable. Well, she called me first. No, she's 13. No, she's 16. But how about she's 20 and she did not know that this is what she was getting signed up for, but you dropped something in her drink. Now she's addicted, and now she can't go anywhere because she's alleged to you. So we have to stick together. It's not that, you know, we're snitches or we're against the system. Yeah, I'm against this. I'm against the system that's against us.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm against. So getting a phone call, and I have to honestly say, after each assignment, I said, this is it. I'm not going anymore. I'm just not gonna do it. Just not gonna do it. And then once again, phone will ring, she'll answer it, and she'll tell me it's Dr. Phoenix. And Dr. Phoenix will tell me that one of her friends' daughters is missing. You know? What am I gonna do? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Wish you well. Where you guys at? You know what I mean? And that drive comes because I wish at a moment of my crisis, you know, I had to put myself in a moment of that crisis, and I put myself in the imaginary mode that my dad was driving down 79th Street. Well, he was riding down 79th Street on this beautiful Maverick, and he just grabbed me, told me I didn't have to live like this, and I woke up. You know, and that's my vision of my dad. And that's what a vision of all of us should have. Brothers, sisters, European, Afrocentric, we must have each other's best interests at mind. And it's not okay to cause harm to someone that does not belong to you. It's not a cattle. It's not livestock. Are they treated like livestock?
Yes.
Absolutely. I just got a phone call from North Carolina. They wanted me to come down and help on a program. And I am. Because the system there is broken. You know, outwardly broken. And anytime you have the chief of police standing up at a press conference after we found the young lady.
But is the system broken, though? This is the system doing what it's supposed to do. It's the way that it's designed.
Yeah.
So us trying to fight the system, us trying to reform the system, us trying to protest and vote and think that somehow the system is going to change because the system is perfectly in order.
For them.
For them.
For them. So what I'm saying is that it's not in order for us.
Right.
It is.
And we cannot say, okay, you know what? Sis, I'm with you. Let's go. We're going to kick that door down. I'm going to kick it with the left and you kick it with the right. I'm kicking it with the left and I turn around and you're getting in the car making a U-turn. Then I drive by such and such alderman's house and I see your car in front of the alderman's house. What are we doing? We already made an agreement that this is not what we're going to do.
Right.
We're going to make sure that we hold them accountable.
Right.
No, I can't go to every piece of the Constitution and write in what I want to. I can't. But what I can do is set a standard with family, and structure of what needs to be done in order just to move the needle a centimeter.
Yeah. No, it's huge. It's huge. And where we started this interview is where I see us now getting, you know, where we can close it. In that you started by talking about the power of your mothers, right? The power of your mothers and what they passed to you. And that's really what we're talking about. Because sure, the system, how it started, what it was built upon, the genocides it led, the enslavement it led to build itself where it is, it works for itself. It doesn't work for us. But we're still here having to live as people in this place, and we have to start working together and being able to depend on each other and do that as mothers, as fathers, as people who are interested in the well-being of the person next to us. There's a saying in indigenous Africa that the elders say, if you want to talk about humanity, you're talking about the mother. The mother is what represents humanity, because the mother is the one that cares for everybody. And if everybody, men and women, could put that heart of a mother inside of them, that's what we're asking. If we're doing that as people living amongst each other, people have to rely on other people. Nobody. My son the other day was asking, what if everybody died and you were the only one left? I'm like, that's the biggest torture for me, because that's a slow death. I might as well have just left with everybody else, because we need other people to live.
We need each other.
So if now even we're in a system, sure, just like you said, we can't be hoping on a bag from the system. They showed us a long time ago that's not what they're interested in giving. If they give us a bag, better know that our enslavement is in that bag,
no doubt.
so that they benefit from that bag.
Yes.
But if we're living here as people, we have to find out how are we going to rely on each other, how are we going to build with each other, and how in building we will even put some pressure on them to either stay out of our business or, you know, at least kick us what you supposed to, you know, what we already earned, what we already are doing. So the mother is supreme, and in listening to everything and all that you're doing and the sacrifices you're making and how you are a mover and shaker out here, because when somebody calls, that heart of a mother just wakes up inside of you and it's just like, well, I gotta go. What gotta be done, I gotta go. That's really what I hope our listeners get and realize, that they also have to grow that heart of a mother inside of them.
The phone was ringing. If you can.
That was good. I mean, it showed that we have movement.
Yeah.
The phone ringing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It shows that in the midst of us working, it's still we're working. You gonna edit that part with the phone?
I'll see. So, you know, hopefully all of our listeners hear that, and that inspires the heart of a mother to grow inside of you, so that you at least just have the care to be concerned with what's going on with your neighbor, to be concerned with, if my neighbor's suffering, I'm suffering too. And we could keep asking questions, sis, because every time you answer, there's 4 more questions on my mind. But we're going to wrap up this episode. We're going to call you back. We're going to be working a lot more together. But can you, for our listeners, tell us what you have going on right now, and if anybody wants to get involved or reach out, how they can reach you?
Certainly. I have a lot going on. I mean, it's all good stuff.
I know it's going to bring about 5 more questions when you say that.
So I'm here in the city of Chicago in the greater Grand Crossing area. And we have I call it a farm, because we have hens and I'm getting some goats, and we're about to have some vegetation growing. And if you're anywhere in Chicago and you want to stop by, please, we're at 605 East 75th Street. My goal is to continue to collaborate with spaces like this to bring awareness to just the injustice of what's going on in all aspects of our life, so we can stay clear here. Man, it's truly been an honor. It's truly been an emotionally blessing right here. I'm very grateful that that the Spirit led this circle, because this was not what I wanted to talk about. But alhamdulillah, I'm just really so grateful for you know, just coming out of Ramadan and you know, the blessings there is, and we have work to do. You guys, if you want to look me up, I'm at Pause, PAUSE, FOR Peace, PEACE, Chicago, CHICAGO, NFP. So it's Pause for Peace, Chicago, NFP.org. Look and see what we're doing. Drop me a message. We're going to have a sneakers party, all colors sneakers party that my family here is invited to, and it's going to be in the Southside of Chicago, and it's a restorative space. It's at a gym. Okay. So we're going to be Reiki and different things like that. So what else do I have? I'm at Imam. I'm at an organization called Imam, and I run a Green Reentry Weekend Warriors program in the city of Chicago. And it's not just only for brothers and sisters that have a case, but such as myself, you know, recidiveness and mass incarceration has affected my family in a tragic way, as well as we found the blessing out of it. So what I do is I hire cohorts. We pay them, you know, to go through school and get their trades, you know, and it's, every time I talk about it, it kind of hits the pit of my stomach, because that's like what my dad was doing, you know what I mean? Finding, you know, trying to find these young guys. And education to teach them welding and teach them, forklifting and teach them flagger and teach them how, to just be self-sufficient and self-starters. That's what we do. And we provide housing if needed. Just, look me up. If you want to shoot me an email, my email is ameena.drameena@gmail.com. You guys continue to love on this podcast, man. We need to build this movement from coast to coast on what it is that our people need, as well as what the human beings need, because we are spiritual people having a human experience, you guys. So that's it for me for right now. I don't know. I need to hear this before you guys publish it. No, because I don't know what just happened, but you guys, something happened. Something just happened, through this course of the couple of hours that I've been here. Something has happened, so I can feel that it's going to be a shift. I need you guys to understand, and I hope you guys feel the energy from here as well. Peace and blessings to you guys and your family. If you need anything,
call Mom. Call the Mom in Chicago. She's going to be there. Thank you so much, sis.
Thank
so
you, guys.
Great
we appreciate you so very much. It has been truly an honor. It's truly an honor.
Life can be so sweet on the sunny side of the street.